This card was pretty fun to watch. Unfortunately, it kind of left a little bad taste in my mouth after the last fight because it was a pretty boring fight. Kind of really reminds me of the other card that when Adesanya fought Romero. I mean, this was, I guess, a little more eventful than Romero fight, but still pretty boring. When they had the crazy Weili Zhang, fight of the year, greatest strawweight fight in women's history, 115 against Joanna Jędrzejczyk. And then it kind of follows up with that fight, and it was just like, I don't know. I thought, congrats to Adesanya. I mean, the guy looks like he's the second greatest middleweight ever after Anderson Silva. And let's see what he continues to do. I mean, Jared Cannonier. Actually, I'll talk about Jared Cannonier later on when we talk about the fight. I was wrong. I think I said that it was worth maybe taking a stab at the under. But everyone was pretty much right that this fight is going to go to decision. It's going to be a boring fight. I don't know. Sometimes Israel, it's always fun to watch him because he's so skilled at using his reach and his legs, especially early on. Like sometimes he can just really shut people out. Later on, people, Robert was able to get in a little closer on him. But I don't know. Sometimes it seems like it's a little bit of like a point fighting kickboxing style, which honestly isn't my favorite. I mean, although I guess I feel like Stephen Thompson has a nice one. Boatan, Alex Pereira has a nice style as a kickboxer. Who's the other guy? I don't know. I sometimes I kind of don't like the city kickboxing style a little bit in terms of Carlos Ulberg and Adesanya. But it's weird because actually I really liked Kai Kara France. Now he's been really putting it together. So I really like Kai Kara France. But just the style of Ulberg and Adesanya, I don't know. It just seems like it's almost like doing too little. And I get it's very smart, and I get it. I mean, hey, why not use your advantage and don't get hit as much and don't take damage and keep making that money? You know what I mean? It's very smart. But sometimes it's not very crowd friendly. I'm trying to think about other kickboxing style. I mean, Badr Hari, obviously, but he doesn't compete in MMA, but like his style is really, really fun. I'm trying to think. What is it called? Yeah, and also I felt like Whitaker. I mean, the fact that he thought he won the fight, I don't know if that's like a mistake on his coach's part or whatever. I mean, maybe they should tell him, hey, listen, like with all these close rounds, they're probably not going to give it to you as a challenger. If they're going to have 5, let's say there was a theoretical way where they're going to have 5 equivalent rounds, which is impossible, but let's say theoretically 5 completely equivalent rounds. They're going to give the fight to the champion for all 5 rounds. It's going to be like a 5-0. So, you can't just expect that. And I don't know, man, I thought that also. I was kind of surprised, like what Daniel Cormier said, like once he got that takedown, he didn't try to get another one, or when he went, he just kind of let Adesanya back up, and he backed up again. I'm like, he was like right in front of him, and his body was open. Maybe just like at least go to the body, or you're in close. I mean, you're finally inside the really tall man's reach. This is your chance to actually go to the body. I don't know. I felt like tentative. I mean, also the confidence wasn't there. It's almost like when he lost the first rounds. It seemed like he didn't even want to fight anymore. I don't know. I mean, Robert Whitaker has had an incredible career. I don't know if those fights with Romero where he took damage, I would argue he lost the second fight to Romero, but I don't know if that changed him. Maybe even it changed Romero after that. He hasn't really kind of been the same since, but I think that, if you look also, he kind of did pretty terrible against Phil Davis, but Phil Davis is an awesome fighter. I love Phil Davis. But so with the... going back to that, I mean, I don't know. I think that obviously, Robert Whitaker's a legend, does whatever he wants, but maybe it makes sense to retire at this point. I think it's kind of like moved on, and obviously, no one really wants to see a third fight. I mean, this one was kind of boring as it is, but yeah, no, awesome for Izzy again. It's very fun. It's cool to watch him switching the stances and his style. But for me, it's a little bit like a point kickboxing style, and I don't know. It's I wasn't a fan. And it's funny because we go from that to just absolute insanity. And actually, one thing I want to say is funny. Like I was pretty right on all my predictions early on in the card, and then later on the card, it just went for, I guess, tailspin. This is one where it went for a tailspin. I actually took the over 1.5, and it almost got there, but not quite. And but I really thought that like Derek was almost like I didn't bet it, but I thought that Derek was almost like a guaranteed win. But he did come in looking a little bit heavy and not as fit. And it's unfortunate because I love Derek Lewis, but I think this is kind of one of the situations where maybe it's also worth for Lewis retiring. I mean, he broke the all-time knockout record, and he can go off into the sunset. I mean, I guess if he wants to make money, he can definitely kind of like Arlovsky, keep beating the guys coming up. Like Arlovsky obviously is a lower level right now than Derek Lewis, but obviously, I don't want the guy taking too much damage too. I mean, this is the first time he's been knocked out cold. He's been TKO'd before by JDS and by Cyril Gane, but he's never been knocked out cold. The way he fell was insane. So I don't know if I want to, Derek Lewis clearly is a very smart guy. He's had like multiple businesses, awesome personality. He should be like a commentator in the UFC. He's hilarious. I love the guy, and I think that might be time to retire for him because again, he's had a great career. I don't want him to take too much damage, and he's an inspiring guy. I love the guy, and it's kind of like Tai Tuivasa said. It's almost like passing the torch to the younger guys, and I think that's really what happened. Wow, all I gotta say is wow. I mean, Tai Tuivasa, that guy can take a punch and give it. I mean, the guy he has a big head, and someone was joking that he's built like a vase, but the guy is tough as it gets, and that beautiful elbow. I mean, that's one thing, and Teddy Atlas tweeted about this, which I thought was so true, is that you might be able to take a big guy's punch, which obviously, I mean, look at what happened to all of Derek Lewis's victim. Look what happened to Augusto Sakai, Tai Tuivasa's victim. But you're not going to take an elbow from a big guy like that. And actually, I'm really excited to see Tai. I hope actually they give Tai the fight to John Jones. And I think the UFC is a good chance of doing that. If you notice, for example, when Khabib retired, they put Michael Chandler against Charles Oliveira. Two fighters who never fought Khabib, because I understand they want to move the division forward. It looks kind of bad if a guy retires and the two guys that he beat are fighting for the title. It just looks really bad. You really want to put two fresh faces in. And this might be great because, again, I mean, Stipe's coming out from a knockout. Cyril Gane, I mean, you could argue that if he didn't go for the leg lock, he would have won that fight. So maybe him, possibility. But why not a surging Tai Tuivasa against John Jones? And it's funny because I feel like everyone's going to count Tai Tuivasa out. Just like I honestly counted him out in this fight. But the way he beat Derek Lewis, and obviously Derek Lewis is not John Jones. There's a lot of stuff going on, but he was able to get up from the takedowns. And I mean, you can say that John Jones, if he takes you down, you're fucked. You're not getting up. But man, like Tai Tuivasa has a serious chin and some serious power. Even if he gets his ass whooped by John Jones, I still want to see that damn fight. You know what I mean? Like, John... it would just be a really awesome fight, and I think they're very deserving. I mean, who else is there? Stipe got like knocked out cold and like badly with his leg going behind him, so I don't think he deserves that. And Ngannou's going to go to boxing. We pretty much, I think we all know that by now. So who do you have in the mix? You have Gane. You have Ngannou. You have Tai Tuivasa, who just beat the number 3 guy, which makes sense. You know what I mean? So he'd be at number 3 or. And then you have maybe the winner, maybe if Blades beats, what's his name? Oh, no, sorry. If Blades beats Chris Daukaus, but even then, like, Derek Lewis is much higher ranked. So I would say I don't mind watching Tai Tuivasa versus John Jones. I mean, it's always like that in combat sports where you expect a certain fight to happen, and then it just doesn't happen because someone comes and spoils the party like Tai Tuivasa. And you could tell that the guy was really taking his training seriously. It's funny because he looked the same as he usually does, but you could tell when he was working, I was pushing the sled, lifting some heavy-ass weights. The guy was, and I love his trainer. His trainer was really good, very good. But, I mean, that was just insane. I did not see, like, Derek Lewis face planting like that. That's insane. And I thought when Tai went punch for punch with Derek Lewis, I'm like, this is over, And, Tai Tuivasa's like, nope, it's not fucking over till the fat lady sings. And I'm so happy for him. And again, I feel terrible. I love Derek Lewis. And I'm happy that they showed respect to each other. I really appreciate that. And, again, I would like to see Derek Lewis ride off into the sunset. I mean, the guy's came back from being incarcerated to being a complete inspiration, and I fucking love the guy. I wish he could become a comedian. He already has. I know he's always talking about his businesses. He has a lot of successful businesses. God bless the guy. He's been making some good money. I mean, sure, yeah, he can stay in the division and knock out some of these guys who are coming up, and and then the guys who beat him pass the test of like who's really damn good. But wow, like after Tai Tuivasa got knocked out by I think Junior Dos Santos, and was it like Sergey Spivak beat him? I was like, man, like all the hype. But now Tai Tuivasa making that beautiful comeback. I'm so happy for the guy. What an inspiration, and I'm happy. I mean, that was for me. It's funny because I had said that. I was like, for me, the main event is Tuivasa, and that's the part I called right. Lewis against Tuivasa, and Cannonier and Brunson. So that's going to bring me to the next fight. Cannonier against Brunson. Jesus Christ. Cannonier is shredded to the bone. Dude looks insane. The guy is so dedicated, so humble, such a hardworking guy, just awesome human being. Awesome. Like the way, just full of respect, great guy. And I know like he was talking about how he upped his cardio. He's like going an hour every day on the assault bike. I mean, the guy is shredded. I mean, it's funny because Brunson always comes in looking good. But Jesus, like Cannonier made Brunson look bad. And Brunson always comes in looking good. So this was an interesting fight. I thought it was worth laying the juice on Brunson, and I was wrong there. I mean, Brunson almost got the rear naked choke in round 1, but Cannonier showing that determination, man, showing that like no matter how many times you fall down, you get right back up. And I mean, he had that. If he would have beaten Robert Whittaker, he would have had that title shot earlier. But you know what? I'm happy that happened because that allowed him to evolve his game more. And I would even argue that, you put Robert Whittaker in there against Cannonier again. I don't know if Whittaker wins again. I think, especially in a 5-round fight. I mean, I know if you look at that last fight, Whittaker was getting close to finishing him at like the end of the 3rd round, but I think Cannonier is just on another level. And I'm really hoping, I'm rooting for the guy against Izzy. I don't want to I just, all respect to Izzy, but I don't know. I love Cannonier's heart. He seems like a really, really good guy and super humble, great guy. And I think he comes from the military too. So just, a man of honor, a real man of honor. So I'm excited to see that. Brunson, it's funny because finally Blonde Brunson gets defeated. But if you notice in his other fights, the same thing happens. He's a very fast twitch guy. So he gasses out very early on in all his fights. Like even except for against Shabazian. But against Hollins, and who was the other one? And Darren Till. He was actually gassing out as well. But what happened is when he was gassing out against Holland, he was able to get the takedown. And same thing with Darren Till, and he was able to finish the fight. Cannonier was strong enough and fit enough and worked his wrestling enough. When Brunson was tired, he didn't give him that out. And then he was like a dead man walking. And once he hit him with that elbow, Jesus Christ, Cannonier hits like a heavyweight. And that actually might be the real test because I was like, who's gonna want to watch this fight? If Izzy just gonna outpoint him? Kickboxing, point striking, kind of like what he did against Whittaker in this fight. And Whittaker beat Cannonier. But now thinking about it, I mean, Cannonier really has that power. And I think, again, with this cardio where he goes 5 rounds, all it takes is one. And I know, again, you could say that with Yoel Romero and all that stuff, but Cannonier is not Yoel Romero. And, the only thing is that he doesn't have as much of the wrestling threat. But if he can maybe put down the wrestling threat, because Whittaker was able to take Adesanya down, but he wasn't able to do anything with it. I mean, Adesanya just got up. And, I'm just excited to see Cannonier fight, Strickland fight. I think that, the middleweight division is getting a little bit stale, so it's exciting to see some new prospects in there. I mean, honestly, I think that looking at like guys like Khamzat, and even Usman, I think if Usman wanted to go up, he could easily win the 185 title. And I think the same thing when it goes to, especially Khamzat. You saw if he gets you down, like that's it, again, like same thing with, people were saying when Jones against Adesanya, if the only problem is, Jones against Adesanya, Jones does his best work in the clinch, and Izzy's good at getting out of the clinch because he's, a good kickboxer. And more. So Jones would actually have to rely on his double leg, which he doesn't use as much. He uses it against Gustafsson, but in general, he doesn't use that as much. But that's going off topic. So I'm really happy for Cannonier. Excited for him to get that next title shot. Definitely deserves. He's been fighting a long time. Fought at heavyweight, fought at light heavyweight, finally fighting middleweight. Had to ups and downs, and finally he's getting his shot. And then I'll be excited for Sean Strickland because I know Sean Strickland's going to walk forward and push the pace. And he might be able to crowd the kicker in Israel Adesanya. Jared Cannonier, I mean, on paper, it really seems like Adesanya's going to destroy him and like outpoint him. But let's see. Cannonier, so far, he's been, come from behind victories, and let's see what he can do. So that was an awesome fight. For me, again, that was the main event and the co-main event. Renato Moicano against Alexander Hernandez. This was the fight. Okay, so this was, I remember the last, basically 4 fights I didn't call right. And before that, I think the 4 I called right. With Renato against Hernandez, I thought it was worth taking a stab on, I thought it was worth taking a stab on Hernandez. And then I'm trying to remember what else I think that's what I had thought. I didn't end up doing it, but I thought that it was kind of worth it because of Moicano's been knocked out a lot, but Moicano really just showed his evolution. He's like, I'm a grappler now who strikes to get into the grappling. He's like, I'm not a striker. Before he was kind of just kind of spamming the calf kicks, but now he's like, you know what? I'm a grappler, but I also have the calf kicks in my back pocket and stuff. So, it's almost like you want to know who you are as a fighter, and Renato definitely knows who he is, and I'm really happy for him. Just unfortunate for Hernandez. He was such a bright prospect, and now it seems like, oh my God, now it's kind of oh, he's going to get cut by the UFC, or, I don't think he's going to get cut. I think he's only going to be 2 losses in a row, but every time he's had that ability to shine, he's kind of been shut down. But I'm really happy for Renato. Just shows you how good Fiziev is, because Fiziev starts Moicano, and Moicano comes out and kicks ass, and it's funny. His post-fight interview was hilarious. He's like, give me that money, baby. And then Fiziev outpointed Bobby Green, and Bobby Green just put on a masterclass. I freaking love Bobby Green, but let me just finish this fight. Yeah, so good for Renato reinventing himself. I'm happy he's a really good fighter. And the one thing I had seen, and I should have taken more into account is the level of competition that Renato has fought. And I know, Thiago Moises is very good, right? But, Renato fought freaking Jose Aldo, Calvin Kattar, Korean Zombie. I forgot who else, but Cub Swanson. So you're talking about legends, and Hernandez. The only legend he really fought was what's his name, Benil Dariush, and it was kind of like a flash knockout situation. So I don't know how much account you could take into that. Of course, it's still a victory against Dariush, and that's obviously that victory Hernandez is going to remember forever because that's the one that aged the best. And but yeah, the next fight was Bobby Green against Nasrat Haqparast. I called this to a T. I think I had Bobby Green by decision, and Bobby Green, man, love that guy. Love that guy. He's always giving an inspiring message. I love on the mic. He's short, concise, to the point. He says what he believes in. He doesn't give a crap. Awesome guy. Beautiful style. Just getting out of range and countering. Fan-friendly style, but fan-friendly style without actually taking too much damage. He rolls with a lot of punches, very smart. Nasrat, always a super tough guy. I would argue that Nasrat should go down to 145 because I think he has a little bit extra weight that he could lose to fight at 145. Bobby Green's, perfect, and again, he's 35 and he's just getting better, and I respect that. The fact that he's able to come back from adversity and get better and better and better. Man, I love that guy. Again, people were saying, he's like the Roy Jones of the UFC, man. I would say him more so than Adesanya. But I love Bobby Green. I think he's an awesome guy, and I wish him the best. I can't wait to see him progress. Finally, this guy should be fighting ranked guys. Nasrat was just fighting Dan Hooker, so Bobby Green should be fighting ranked guys. That brings us to the prelim card. Called it again. Andrei Arlovski by decision. Andrei Arlovski is the king of the decisions and the split decisions. So happy for the guy. I like Jared Vanderaa, smart guy, but Arlovski always showing that wily veteran's ability, and good for him, man. I thought it wasn't right they didn't get a chance to interview him. What a legend in the sport, but it is what it is. Then, Andre is going to keep getting a nice paycheck by just beating these up and coming guys. And let's see. I mean, he called out to fight Volkov. I mean, that's fun, but I mean, Volkov's obviously already paired out with Tom Aspinall. That's going to be very interesting to see because if Tom Aspinall passes the Volkov test with flying colors, I mean, the guy, that could be another guy. You know, you talk about contending for a title, and the guy has nasty jiu-jitsu. So that brings us to Roxanne Modafferi against Casey O'Neill. Called this again. I said this fight is going to go to decision. No one is going to blast through Roxanne. And obviously that was bullshit with a split decision. But, I mean, Roxanne, I mean, and her interview at the end, and, I mean, she just almost brings tears to my eyes. Like, what an incredible human being. And I'm always happy to hear her talk. And fighters like her, legends like her, who created the ability for these fighters to get, paid. And I thought, Casey kind of had like a terrible attitude, but she's clearly very talented. Obviously, that I want to get that out of the way. She doesn't have the best attitude. A lot of people were bullying her. But what I did like at the end, I wish she showed respect to Roxanne. And good for her. She's, obviously she passed that test. And, Roxanne comes out and she put it all on the line and she can retire in peace and succeed in all our other endeavors. That brings me to the next fight, Kyra Phillips against Marcelo Rojo. Wow. I mean, the guy is the freaking Matrix. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, his last fight he lost because he kind of gassed out against Raulian Paiva because he was destroying Raulian early. But this guy kept the pace up the whole time. I actually thought that, I was like, whenever I see one of these big bets, like someone put 5K on Marcelo Rojo, I'm like, oh shit, like someone knows something I don't. I mean, Marcelo's a tough guy. I mean, he's going to fight for your money, never going to give up on himself. But Kyra, man, what's smart? He didn't, just cruise at the end. He's like, let me finish this guy. He did a fantastic job. I'm excited to see what the future holds for Kyra Phillips. That guy's freaking talented. Beautiful striking, and then that nasty jiu-jitsu. Brings us to the next fight. Light heavyweight Carlos Ulberg against Fabio Cherant. Also, good for Carlos, very smart. He has that same style as Adesanya, kind of like that point kickboxing style. I feel like I'm not really too much of a fan of it. Good for him. I think they're going to cut Fabio Cherant from the UFC. I think that's pretty much everyone knows that. I mean, he's only 7-4 and he's going 3 back-to-back losses. And again, he didn't push the envelope at the end. And I feel bad because he seems like a really good guy and he got into shape, but he was just taking pictures, like Daniel Cormier said, unfortunately. And, he actually caught Ulberg a few times. And if he actually pushed the pace, he could have done something. And I would argue the same thing with Whitaker, but to a lesser extent. Obviously, Cherant was kind of just standing there, and Ulberg just won by just throwing a few more shots. But good for Ulberg. We'll see what the future holds for him. But unfortunately, Fabio's probably going to have to go back to the regional scene, maybe go to Bellator. I mean, I don't know if they're going to want him, but we'll see. Unfortunately, because I like the guy, and it was sad to see his coaches like, man, you got to go. You're not listening to me. And it fucking sucks. It really sucks because Fabio is a really good guy. Seems like a really good guy. Ooh, I did see that Ronnie Lawrence against Mana Martinez fight. I mean, Ronnie, it was crazy. That just shows you how good this guy is, how high of a standard he holds himself to. I mean, the guy had a pretty awesome performance, yet he was just upset at himself. He should keep his head up high. I mean, he did a fantastic job. I mean, Mana's very tough. I would say that Mana, when he hurt Ronnie, if only he was a little better at the sprawl, like Adesanya is, and he could stop the takedown. He could have really finished him. And I thought at the end when he had the last 20 seconds, he almost hesitated a little bit. It was kind of moving around fancy instead of just running at him. And I don't know. I feel like, and then Ronnie was able to get the last takedown, solidified the fight. Good win for Ronnie. I mean, Ronnie just rocked him on the feet, and then Mana showing the heart of of a champion coming back and doing very well. And that was good for Ronnie Lawrence. I mean, Mana Martinez doesn't look bad after that fight either, but, Ronnie has to be, he showed the ability to survive when he was, almost out on his feet. So good for him. I didn't watch the Malkoun AJ Dobson fight. Malkoun, to my understanding, uses wrestling to win, and, good for him. Obviously, he trained with Robert Whitaker with the wrestling, which is, obviously Whitaker did show improved wrestling, but again, he had to do a little bit more. I missed the Douglas Silva de Andrade fight, and I think Morozov was a pretty big favorite. So good for Douglas Silva de Andrade. I mean, that guy, at an old age, still competing at a high level. The guy who has like the lowest body fat I've ever freaking seen looks amazing. Remember when he fought Piotr Jan? He just looked incredible. Then we have Jeremiah Wells against Mike Matitha, also known as Blood Diamonds. And I mean, Jeremiah Wells just destroyed the guy. I mean, I was actually excited to see. I thought that he almost had the great takedown defense to stop Jeremiah. But see, okay, so that was the difference between, I thought, between Whitaker, for example, and Jeremiah Wells. Obviously, Jeremiah Wells is also a black belt in jiu-jitsu, and I mean, the guy's like shredded. It looks amazing. But he just kept being persistent and persistent, almost like Whitaker gave up. It was like, okay, I'm just going to do one, and that's it. Or even like just kept throwing the left. Like, didn't add the right in, just let me throw one shot at a time. And you can't do that with Adesanya. He's such a long reach. If you're going to catch him, you got to throw like multi-combos at him because you're going to miss like the first 2 punches, and then the third one you might catch. So, I mean, it is what it is. You know, I feel bad. You know, I like the story, Blood Diamond. I like what he represents. But, you know, Jeremiah Wells got the win. You know, we'll see. This is going to be a learning experience for Mike Matitha or Blood Diamond. And I'm sure he's going to come back better. He has a great gym. And then, sorry for yawning, guys. It's late now. I'm just recording this after the fight. Lastly, William Knight against Max Christian. I think that was the biggest weigh-in miss in history. And you saw, I mean, William Knight was kind of flabby looked flabby. And it's funny because I had put in my prediction before the weigh-ins, so I didn't know what he was going to come in at. And I said that the way to go to play this is either Grisham most likely by decision, or, you know, I don't mind someone taking a stab at William Knight or doing like what is it called? Kind of like a hedge bet. But in the end, you know, Grisham obviously, you know, looking at that, I was like, hey, I mean, I took Grisham by decision after watching the weigh-ins, and I mean, you know, obviously William Knight's a tough guy, never gives up on himself, but I mean, he came in like kind of looking chunky, and Max, good for him. I think he's an underrated fighter, and I hope he does well. I mean, he's 37. This is his chance to really progress. So overall, I mean, a good, solid night of fights. I definitely enjoyed the first 2. Always like watching big guys, and then Jeremiah Wells is fun, and loved. Wasn't a fan. I actually thought there was going to be a little more exciting for Olberg and and actually I was going to say also I called that fight going to decision, Olberg and Saran. I knew they were going to be more conservative, but not that conservative, but that's a side note. Then you know, the Modafari Casey O'Neill fight, loved it. Arlovsky Vandera fight was kind of boring, but I was happy for Arlovsky. Bobby Green, man, love the guy, put on a masterclass. Hinato fight was great. Jared fight was great. Tai Tuivasa was great. Again, the only thing is that the main event left a sour taste in my mouth, but it is what it is. I mean, I just know, like, obviously with Adesanya's style, it sometimes doesn't pair out with certain people, so it's not always going to be the funnest fight. But it is what it is. I mean, Adesanya clearly is a master of range and very smart, keeping his belt. You know, keeps is lapping the guys now. So we'll see. Hopefully, we can get some exciting prospects in there. You know, can't wait to see Khamzat. You know, against Khamzat against Usman and Khamzat against Adesanya. I mean, Khamzat so far, I mean, the guy, if he destroys Gilbert Burns, if he like knocks him out, I think he beats Usman. I think he beats Adesanya. I mean, who even knows? Maybe he even takes the light heavyweight belt. I mean, the guy is freaking amazing. But that's a side note. So thanks everyone for listening. Next week we're gonna have the it was supposed to be the Dos Anjos versus Fiziev fight. Now it's gonna be Walker against Jamal Hill. Really excited for that. I'll be making some videos for sure, breaking that down tomorrow. Really like that. Really excited. And yeah, thanks guys. And then please, and Jim Miller's fighting. Good for him. What a legend in the game. Please guys, like and subscribe, and I appreciate all your support. Thanks.